So in our last video, we talked a lot about style, and we sort of broke down the importance of exploring your own movement as a means of developing your own style, and also just to learn more about who you are as a dancer. So today we're going to talk about 3 more tangible ideas that we can incorporate into our already existing practice with freestyle that I think will ultimately just give us a little bit more direction as we explore this idea, and also will help us to sort of glean the information that we need from our dancing as we're exploring. So let's just go ahead and hop into it. So the first idea that I have for us to explore is this concept of allowing your movement to be guided by feeling rather than by producing. And what do I mean by that? I think sometimes as dancers, specifically when we're freestyling, it's very easy to get caught up in what our movement looks like and in thinking about how other people are viewing our movement, whether or not it's intricate enough or whether or not it's impressive enough. And I think beginning from that place is super not helpful, especially when it comes to this idea of exploring your own freestyle and being open to what your body is trying to tell you or communicate to you about who you are as a dancer. Now, sometimes this idea can be sort of ill-defined. People will just sort of throw this out as dancers. You just need to feel it more. Just have more feeling with your movement. I agree with the principle behind that, but sometimes I don't think that we have a lot of clear direction on how to actually approach this idea. Approaching your movement from a place of feeling rather than producing looks a lot like paying attention to the natural inclinations that you feel within yourself when you're listening to music. As dancers, we're usually dancing to music, and we've talked before on this channel about the relationship between our movement and music. I think that a big part of becoming a better dancer is forming a better relationship with music and cultivating a more holistic understanding of what music actually is and how it can influence the way that we move. So as you're exploring this idea, as opposed to beginning from a place of thinking, what can I do to this song? What movement can I do on top of this music? Beginning from a place of saying, what is this music telling me to do? What does this music make my body naturally feel like it wants to do? Now, this can take time, at least in my experience. In this day and age, I think that we're so used to just doing steps with music, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but I think the concept of the music leading your movement and actually tangibly knowing how to do that can be a very foreign idea for some of us. For me, it's looked a lot like studying the music and simply slowing down, not trying to do as much with my movement, focusing more on what the music sounds like, specific sounds within the music that I can hit and highlight, and allowing my body to move naturally and in a way that it feels inclined to rather than in a way that it feels like it has to. And I think that when we do this, it can show us a lot of valuable things. What our tendencies are when we hear music, what motions and concepts that we repetitively utilize as we're dancing. This is all super useful information that we can utilize as we're formulating our style and as we're trying to listen to what our body is trying to tell us about who we are as a dancer. I think another super helpful thought when it comes to exploring this concept is this idea of moving like you, not like them. I think sometimes as dancers, we can get caught up in trying to look like somebody else. And I'm not saying that that's always a bad thing. We talked in the last video about the value of studying other people that we're inspired by to determine what it is inside of us that we see in the people that we admire that we want to emulate with our own style. But I think in this explorative process, specifically when we're freestyling, if we get caught up in trying to look a certain way, we immediately shut ourselves off to the natural inclinations that our body is trying to communicate to us. It becomes immediately about trying to be somebody else and trying to replicate what they do, as opposed to formulating a genuine response to the information that you're being presented with within the music. So do it like you, not like them. The second idea that I have for us is this idea of utilizing foundational vocabulary. Now, let me break that down a little bit more. I think as dancers, we all have different foundation, style, and vocabulary that we are inspired by. Some of us may be inspired by breaking, some of us may be inspired by locking, whacking, some of us may be inspired by jazz movement. And so I think it's very helpful to spend time exploring those things, whether it's vocabulary or just foundational concepts or different dance styles. Find those things that inspire you and study them. Try to incorporate them into your practice and take note of what it is about those things that you connect to and that you're drawn to. This will not only just improve your vocabulary, but I think that it'll also help you to sort of navigate what it is that you see in the given dance style or the foundational idea that you actually are connecting to, and will thus help you to incorporate those ideas into your style even more. Studying the vocabulary or the foundational concepts that inspire you in other dancers or in other dance styles will ultimately help you to discover what it is within those different ideas or iterations of dance that you are inspired by and that you're drawn to. And that will help you to incorporate those ideas more tangibly into your practice, and also will help you to establish your style within your dance even more. And I think a super helpful idea when it comes to this concept of exploring those things that you're inspired by is this thought of taking those things that inspire you, whether it's vocabulary or just a foundational concept or a dance style, and not just doing it in the way that you're seeing other people do it, but doing it in the way that you would do it. It's not always about perfectly matching the person that you're watching and trying to get every minute detail exactly like they're doing it, because in reality, that's probably not what they're doing. They're probably just doing the step in the way that feels right to them. And so I think that if we can approach this concept not from a place of wanting to copy exactly what we're seeing, but more so grab onto the general idea, internalize and digest it, allow it to inform us however it's going to, and to then after do the step or explore the idea as if we're the one who created it. And so I think that's the value in this idea. Studying the different styles or concepts that inspire you within other movement ideas will both help you to find what it is about them that inspires you and also give you the opportunity to incorporate them into your personal practice. And then the third and final idea that I have for us today is this concept of fully embodying the character that you are trying to play. Now that might be a little bit confusing because we've just been talking about formulating authentic responses and not trying to be like anybody else. So let me explain that a little bit more. When I'm talking about the character that you're trying to play, I'm not talking about you trying to be somebody else. I was talking about a similar idea to this with my friend Caden once. We were talking about how it kind of feels like a cheat code to dress like the people that you're inspired by or the people that you want to dance like. For me, I've always found that when I dress like people that I want to dance like, it helps me to identify more with whatever it is that I'm inspired by and that I'm trying to emulate within that person's movement. Now, obviously, we don't want to strictly copy everything that everyone else is doing, but I think that there's a way to pull from and to utilize ideas that inspire us while still utilizing those ideas in our own way and being unique with our expression of them. So that's one idea that I have when it comes to exploring this concept, changing or rather just being more specific about your style and the clothing that you wear when you dance. I think will help you to further identify with what you're trying to create within your movement, and I think will ultimately help you to just sort of embody some of the characteristics that you may be inspired by within other people's movements or other dance styles. We sort of talked about this already, but fully embodying the vocabulary that inspires you is also a great way to do this. Diving deeper into the vocabularies that inspire you as a dancer, really trying to learn about the nuances behind those ideas and being super detail-oriented about what differentiates one vocabulary style to another, I think will, one, help to build your confidence and make you feel like you know what you're talking about, and also will give you just some really great tangible tools that you can then utilize and incorporate into your practice, and will also help you to formulate your style just that much more. Another idea is to study the music that inspires you. Study the music that those you are inspired by listen to or dance to. What can you learn from the music that they listen to or about the music that they listen to that can inform the way that you dance or the way that you express yourself? I think that this idea sort of works in part to combat this sort of imposter syndrome that some of us can feel. I think that we sometimes feel like we have to get to a certain point before we can fully step into or fully embody the dancer or the person even that we want to be. And I think that while we may feel like we're being more respectful or we're having foresight in that moment, I think what we're actually doing is holding ourselves back and waiting for the perfect opportunity to simply do what we could already be doing in the present moment. Don't wait for the perfect moment to allow yourself to be authentic to who you are as a dancer. In my experience, even though there are things that you can do to boost your confidence and to make you feel more equipped as a dancer, you're never going to get to a point where you automatically are just like, oh yeah, I can go for it, unless you intentionally decide that's how you're going to approach everything you do. And for me, that's a hard choice that I still am learning to make. Fully embodying who I know I am as a dancer and who I want to be as a dancer in the right now is far more effective than trying to wait for a theoretical time where I'm going to feel ready. And so I think that's partially why this idea of fully embodying the character that you want to play is so valuable. And that's going to wrap up our 3 tangible ideas that you can incorporate into your practice. As you continue to explore your style and become more authentic to who you are as a dancer, giving yourself the grace to simply allow yourself to be where you're at is going to be so huge. You may not feel like you're where you want to be or that you're in a place where doing something like this is going to be helpful, but don't disqualify yourself and don't look past the work that you have already done, or at the very least the desire that you have to improve, so much that you don't give yourself the permission to explore and to do what you can now to move in that direction. Even if this is your first day as a dancer and the only thing that you know is that you want to be better, the only way that you're gonna get there is by taking the steps now to improve and to get yourself to that level. So no matter where you feel like you're at in your freestyle or just your dance journey in general, give yourself the freedom to fully be where you're at. And in that, be the fullest and most profound expression of who you are and where you are at in this moment, rather than being timid and more reclusive, which will never allow you to fully demonstrate what it is that you have to offer. And you have a lot more to offer than you think you do. Anyways, that's gonna do it for today's video. I wanna thank you guys so much for your support. Before we go, I have a very exciting announcement that I'd like to make. I've started a Patreon. And while we're still developing and kind of trying to figure out what this is going to look like, I wanted to make it available to you guys to just at least check out and to see if it's something that you want to be a part of. We have a lot of super exciting stuff coming up for the Shed in the next year, and I'm super excited for you guys to be a part of it. So if you have some time, go ahead and click the top link in the description and check out what I've got going on Patreon. As more information becomes available for me to share with you guys, and as I'm able to inform you guys more what we have to offer on Patreon, I will be sure to do so. And until that point, feel free to check out the Shed on Instagram and TikTok. Feel free to message me on either of those platforms if you have questions, and comment down below if there's anything that you need further broken down in this video or any of my other videos. I just want to thank you guys so much for your support, and as this year of 2024 is drawing to a close, I'm just super excited for everything that we have coming up in 2025. So thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I'm gonna see you guys in the next one. Peace out.